Experience is always better in a group. The Christian experience doubly so. We're just a group of gamers that love to talk about life, God, and video games, in no particular order. So whether you're a newbie or a grizzled ancient like us, we want to help each other roll the level.
Welcome to another edition of the Roll the Level podcast. My name is Matt, and I am really excited to dive into today's topic. It's a little bit different. It is an in the news type of conversation today. We had some interesting news drop yesterday. There's not so much news as opinions that have exploded on the internet. And
opinions and news, the line between them is really blurry.
That is a fair point. So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get there, I want to introduce my good friends and fellow gamers. Dame, how you doing, buddy?
I am awake, I think.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not a dream. Unless
this is not a dream. That would be awkward and weird, but
wouldn't it be just like co-op gaming, though?
Maybe a little bit.
Right? Like we're just playing through the same dream?
Yeah, but we just have less control over the content. True. So I mean that's
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. It's not as interactive as I would like.
True.
That's fair.
True.
Okay, cool. Awesome. But you're doing all right though?
Doing all right.
Good.
Just been a busy week. We're preparing for friends to come visit, and so
nice.
Just all of the front loading of all of the work to make sure we're ready for them to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, how are you doing?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby?
Yeah, no complaints.
Things are going well?
Things are going.
Things are going in a direction.
I haven't left the house in like a week and a half, so.
That's fair. Yes, but it's almost over. It's coming to an end.
It is,
so that's
tomorrow I'm going to throw up my mother-in-law's coming over. She's bringing cookies. We're going to have a party.
Celebration. End of self-isolation celebration.
Yeah. Nice.
It's a terrible name for a card.
But
cool.
I will make it.
That's right, but you'll make it anyway. Very cool. That's awesome. Sweet. Well, I'm doing very well. I was on vacation last week, as many of you know. It was a staycation. Usually we go out east in October, but because of COVID, clearly that's not a thing, which is okay. We kicked the kids to the curb, and by the curb I mean back to school. And my wife and I took the days and just had some fun together, day trips, and toured around and did some stuff. So it was really good. So it was great. So today in the news, I wanted to talk about an interesting tweet that Alex Hutchinson, who is the creative director for Google Stadia, posted yesterday. And it was a very divisive comment, and I want to get all of the feeds back on it. So Alex Hutchinson, director of Google Stadia, he's also worked on a crap ton of games. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at his CV, but he's done Journey to the Savage Planet, Far Cry 4. I'm just looking at a list here. Assassin's Creed 3, did Spore, Sims 2, and he has a game called Etc. in there, which I think is just .etc. But I didn't want to make sure I messed that up. Anyway, but he posted an interesting tweet yesterday. The first part of the tweet was talking about just all the concerns. Like Twitch has got the ban hammer right now, deleting a bunch of old content because of music claims and stuff like that. So content creators are losing their crap over that, which is a whole other discussion for another time. But the second part of his tweet was the interesting part, and I want to spend a little bit of time on it. It says the real truth. So this is kind of the second part of the post. The real truth is the streamers should be paying the developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use. End of quote. So this was Alex's hot take on how streaming should work. What are your thoughts, my friends? Dame, start us out, buddy.
Well, look, opinions are like armpits. Everybody has a couple of them. Most of them stink. And so I'm just gonna wave mine out here. Yeah.
Waft your armpit smell into the microphone.
Yeah. I'm just gonna waft it into the microphone here. So this is a pretty nuanced conversation here, because you have a couple of sides to this, right? Like, on one hand, you do have, if you were to look at this purely from the standpoint of intellectual property, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to the DCMA takedowns that have happened with this, a lot of it's revolving around music that is right protected, for the artists, so that to make sure that they are getting royalties for the thing that they have created and produced. The flip side of that is that you also have a situation where there has been this really unprecedented rise in content creation and third-party creativity when it comes to things like video games.
Oh yeah, huge.
And so this is where you get into stuff like fair use, like what, like the fair use laws for stuff like this are really interesting because the content has to be transformational, right? Like it has to be something that is transformed from the original thing. And so this is where it gets into that murky territory, because while you have people who are playing through games, they are adding their own commentary, they're adding their own conversation. So there is technically this bit of it is transforming the content that is being generated. They are also getting the benefit of, I mean, it's free real estate, right? You know, it's that free advertising of somebody has decided to pick up your game and put it out in front of other people that may not have otherwise seen your game. So in the flip side of this, there's the question of, like, should games franchise streamers? Which we know happens, right?
Oh,
you know,
100% all the time. I've been to events where that's happened. So. not as an influencer, but as a reviewer.
Yeah, as the quote unquote old guard of
that's just it, right?
Video game journalism. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
There is an interesting pandering that happens. But I shouldn't say pandering. Pandering is maybe a little bit of a dirty word when it comes to that. There is a little bit of flirtatiousness, if you will, between developers, publishers, and influencers. Because at the end of the day, here's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, the developer wants to get their game in front of as many people as they can. They 100%. Want that visual. They want that visual representation, so that more people will look at something like that and go, "Oh, hey, my favorite, variety streamer is streaming this game," and so, or my favorite, person that I follow on Twitter or Instagram is doing this thing. Like, the whole influencer sphere thing is such a nebulous concept that to take that kind of business practice and apply it to that, it ripples out into so many other things. Like, at what point is the transaction between the developer and the influencer more of a, like, they are the paid advertisement for the company.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they are, actually.
Well, it's true. There is there is sponsored content.
Yeah.
But usually there is this kind of good faith arrangement of, like, hey, we're going to offer you this, game code to play in front of your audience. The flip side of that is that there are also some, shall we say, unsavory practices when it comes to some expectations that some developers have on their affiliates or their partners. When it comes to, so this conversation goes, like, all over the map from the good. Like, what's fair use, what is the, like, good faith agreement between a publisher, developer, and an influencer, and what does it look like to be an affiliate? I saw recently Genshin Impact has blown up in the last couple of months, which, if you haven't played it, it's Breath of the Waifu is what it is. I mean, it's, to quote Azzacross with that, but it is a kind of open world action RPG in the I would say in the spirit of, but let's just say it's in the same family tree as Breath of the Wild.
They're kissing
but
cousins.
They really are. They really are. And there's sometimes it gets really awkward and really apparent. But there was a little bit of a revelation about what it took to be a quote unquote affiliate for Genshin Impact, and it had all sorts of really interesting requirements for their streamers, and I don't want to misquote it, so I'm not gonna pull out. I'm not gonna like make any statement on the information, and I actually went looking for it, and I could not find the information, so I'm not sure if it just got stuffed into like a duffel bag and thrown into the harbor or what. But yeah, I mean, it was some really interesting stuff that was some really outlandish requirements for, hey, we're giving you this stuff, and it didn't really equate to the amount of work that was expected of the content creator.
Yeah.
So
and we're getting into almost review territory at this point, so I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But
right.
But you do make some good points about the fair use and that good faith relationship. And Sarah, I want to bounce over to you real quick on this too, because I'd love your thoughts on this. Because I think probably of the three of us, you probably spend more time watching streamers than the rest of us.
I was going to give you a couple examples, like a recent example.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I'd love to see your thoughts on this.
Well, one of the points that I wrote down to talk about too was how they are pretty much advertising. Like, they are doing the company a favor, really, for taking the time to stream their game. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have picked up Fall Guys if I didn't watch Gary Whitta play it. Like, I watched him having fun playing the game. Like, I just thought, I saw it going on Twitter, and it's like, oh, that's cute. I don't know what this game is. And I watched people play it, and on Twitch, and it's like, I got to pick up this game. Like, this looks awesome. And I would love to throw money at it if they let me buy the costumes I wanted, if I didn't have to have all the stupid crowns and win all the flipping games. But
tell us how you really feel.
That's right.
I'm mad I missed out on a cat costume because I didn't have enough crowns, and I would have totally paid for it. But that's an aside.
Okay.
But also, like, I watched, I don't know if you guys know Dan Reichert. He used to work for Game Informer and Giant Bomb.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. I know who he is. Yeah.
He did this thing recently on Twitch where he streamed, oh my gosh, like 5 times a week. And he was playing the Mario, the new 35th, oh my gosh, 3D All-Stars.
Yes.
And I was not interested in that game at all. But he did this thing where he got 120 stars in all 3 games. Like, every night he would do 3 stars in each game and go off. And I was like, oh, every time he just makes it look so fun. And the community is just so fun around it. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh. Yeah. He's not affiliated, like, he's a Twitch affiliate, but he's not like affiliated with Nintendo or anything, like, but he made it just look so fun that I picked up the game. I was like, okay, I'm going to play this because he just makes it look awesome. So he's definitely doing the Nintendo a favor and Twitch by bringing so many people on Twitch said they are the reason they are on, like, have signed up for Twitch is to watch him, or else they wouldn't have, like, come over.
Yeah.
Like, from YouTube or whatever. So it's like, yeah, they are doing Twitch a favor. They're doing Nintendo a favor, or anything that they put, like, just decided to put on their channel. Like, he will get game codes. Like, he got Crash 4, and he's like, I played it for one night. It was good. Maybe I'll go back to it. But Mario. So, but it's been good. But, like, I've also learned some lessons about all this, too, streaming for Extra Life and such like that. Like, I know that my streams for Extra Life can never go on YouTube or can never be archived. And I don't really mind that either, because I play a lot of Rock Band, and a Rock Band obviously has a lot of music, which is copywritten. And so I kind of go in with the mindset that I am there to make money for charity and not for myself, obviously, because, Extra Life, awesome, coming soon. But
I'm so excited.
But I don't know,
I loved your side note, I loved your video the other day, the promo.
Oh, thank you.
It was amazing. Damn, you got to check it out on Facebook.
I actually watched it.
You did? Okay,
it's
good.
Adorable, yes.
That kid, man, he nailed it. It's great. Anyway, sorry. Yes. Back to the discussion at hand.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you, by the way. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I go in with it with the mindset of, this is advertising. I'm not gonna, like, I like watching live streams. I don't watch the archives. I know this will happen once, and I am there to be entertained by it. and maybe I'll pick up the game or not, but it's just me having fun. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think too, like sometimes I think people downplay the power that influencers have, as much as I joke about being the old guard reviewers.
Why
and stuff.
we call them influencers.
Exactly.
That's why the name exists.
Exactly. And it spreads across so many different fields, not just video games. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this whole concept of, hey, we're going to start slapping a price tag on your ability to influence does a couple of things that aren't good. Man, it really like kills the indie market, I think, right? Or would. I feel like long-term indie market, both in game developing, but also in, for the up and coming influencers and Twitch streamers and, and stuff like that. Like if you have to pay for a license before you can even fire up the game, I mean, that could be a pretty steep start point. Like that, one of the beautiful things about streaming and about, these online presences is that the price of getting started is pretty low. Which is awesome because it gives you a chance to try it out, figure it out, see if you like it, see if you don't, and get into it. But then all of a sudden you're basically cutting off a whole group of people that don't have the money for all the high end stuff to get started in these things. But what do you guys? Do you think what would be some of the negative or positive things that could come out of this type of thing? Are there any positives? I'm sorry, I'm very biased against this idea.
Stockholders might think so, but
I don't know. What do you guys think on this?
I think that it changes the entire dynamic of what streaming is. Streaming is a place where people can, like you said, at any skill level, can pick up a camera, can sit down to their console or their PC, and just create content and explore games, and for people to be able to come in and watch people having fun with doing their thing. If you start to go down this road of licensure, you are essentially saying that influencers are freelance marketers, right?
100%.
And they require a freelancer's license in order to be able to have access to streaming this content. That type of gatekeeping is in anything is really detrimental to the markets themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It cuts off the access that others might have and really limits the spread and the spread to other channels and other influences and people watching and whatnot. And I guess the question that I would ask is, what is to gain in that? Like, what are you looking to gain in it? Is it just purely that you're thinking of the artist? And because I want to try to give the benefit of the doubt, like this is a comment without a whole lot of context, right? Like,
absolutely.
You can't excoriate somebody over the thoughts that are in their head that they tried to get out on the page and it just didn't come out right, or just maybe didn't get across all of the nuances for the conversation in the short number of characters. And that's one of the things I want to be really, really careful about.
To a degree, I would say yes, but I would also say, like, if you follow the comment train, like he stands pretty firm on this point and plants his feet pretty hard. So I don't disagree with you that it's important to evaluate it and go, okay, what's the actual context here? Yeah. In this particular case, I would say he plants his feet pretty hard on it as you get into the comments. So just for context, to give you context.
Fair enough. But the question is, like, what's the end game with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you hope to achieve with something like this? And what are the things that led up to, like, what's the frustration that led up to this conversation or even this train of thought to need to be defended, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
If you're just looking at it from the perspective of, like, hey, we want to protect artists, like, and that's it. Like, okay, cool. I can understand that. Let's have a conversation about that. Let's talk about how we do this well, like, and where the logical end of this is. Like, are you then going to say that, okay, now the artists that made the icons or the emojis for channels, like they have to franchise the use of the emojis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It gets ludicrous fast.
It gets really silly really fast when you start taking it to its logical end.
Yeah.
So I fail to see where the
benefit of this
the
is, right?
long-term benefit is of creating a license for streaming particular content. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, influencers are still bringing in dollars to developers, to publishers, because people are watching the games, they're buying the games because they think, aha, I could have fun like that too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and the other concern I have too is if you switch over to a model of paid licensing, you've basically just turned it into a commercial at that point.
Yes.
Right? And I don't know. I would argue that word of mouth is a much more powerful tool than a commercial. Right?
Commercial, I could walk away, make a sandwich, and ignore and come back.
That's right. I mean, how frequently do we count down the 5 seconds on YouTube so we can get back to whatever we're watching?
Especially these days.
Exactly. So I'm going, I just don't see how this is a positive idea, because you are gatekeeping for one thing. You're killing the up and coming. You're stifling a lot of creativity. You're essentially creating this very elitist capitalist mentality, and I don't want to go too far down the road of capitalist versus socialism and all that crap. That's not what I'm getting at. The point is that you are creating these walls that people can't get through to get to content, which long term would be totally counter what you want as a game developer. You want as many people to engage with your content as possible. Which is why I've been so fascinated by the free-to-play model over the last 15 years, and how they've tried to, they've definitely not always gotten it right. And I could totally name drop a few companies, but I won't. But there's been this really interesting journey of and tension line of how do we give away content and still make money because we want exposure. And that's such an interesting. What's that? Sorry.
It worked for Genshin Impact.
Well, that's what I mean, right? And I think we're finally kind of getting to a point where companies are starting to understand the tension line and how to keep that in balance. And this is just totally counter the way that the creative online culture is going. You look at YouTube and the amount of free stuff they give you, audio libraries. I know there's some great paid audio libraries that you can get there, but YouTube's in the last 3 or 4 years has just skyrocketed in the quality of content that they give you for free. Fair use license, common use license stuff that you can use. And it's funny because some of the biggest subs that I watch on YouTube are using this stuff now. They still have their paid stuff that they use and they still push it when there's a sponsor video, but a lot of the songs I'm hearing as their backtracks and stuff are the same songs I'm hearing on the YouTube, free library. So I'm like, if your entire culture is moving in this direction of a creative, just this awesome creative thing, why would you want to try to turn that around for a few extra bucks, which I think long term is going to shoot you in the foot anyway? I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that.
Well, it's the difference. It really is the difference, Matt, between having the assurance that you're going to get X number of dollars here with what the license would cost versus the it's the risk reward thing, right? Of you can count on, if you go the license route, you can count on the cost of the licensure giving you X number of dollars. What you can't count on is this is what an influencer playing our game is gonna bring in.
I would agree to a point, but I also go do we not have enough data at this point to minimize that risk reward? Is there not enough data out there about the impact that influencers have on video game culture? I mean, clearly there must be some data, because a lot of these events that I go to cover see more influencers than reviewers.
That's true.
So clearly companies are investing in influencers, and they don't just do that. There's got to be data points that are saying this is a good financial decision to fly 10 influencers and only 2 reviewers to an event and put them all up in a hotel. You don't just do that. So I kind of wonder, I understand the risk reward and I agree with you. quick buck versus the risk of not making any bucks. But at the same time, I look at the data points and I'm going like, well, wait a minute. If we've already see copious amounts of developers investing and publishers investing in influencers, then there's got to be data to support that, because they don't just throw money out.
Yeah, there definitely is. The point that I'm getting at though with that is that there still is that question of, even if an influencer gets this content out in front of, say an audience of 100,000 people, right?
Yeah.
How many of those 100,000 people are likely to pick up the game and go from there?
Yep. No, that's fair. Absolutely.
Like, look at shoot. I was going to use like Among Us as an example. Among Us is a game that's been out for 4 or 5 years or something like that, and the publisher was about to make a second version of it, and then it just all of a sudden blew up on the platform, and they decided to just pour the resources into that. And so I wonder with that, if we could jump in a time machine and go back and look how many influencer codes were given out, with something like that. Because because you get in front of an audience or get an influencer to play it doesn't necessarily mean that the audience is going to pick it up.
True.
So there's still that risk that's in there.
But that's any PR though.
It
right?
is.
Like
yes.
that's the posters you paid to have promoted. That's the paid advertisements on Facebook. That's the, like, how do you quantify any one of those things? I don't know, because I'm not a PR guy, but go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I don't necessarily know if it's the game that sells, but the person. Like, we should be thanking the person for doing it.
Right.
Unless the game is just awful and they just absolutely
Well, yeah, but they can make stuff look good sometimes, so I don't know.
What was really interesting in response to the comment that was made, Jacksepticeye, who is a huge streamer, made a comment something along the lines of, "That's really funny coming from somebody that has fan art of me in their game title in their banner."
In their banner, yeah.
Yeah. So there's look, everybody fails a purity test somewhere, but I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of extra questions that need to be asked.
Yeah.
As far as how is streaming content defined? How is the use of game streams defined when it comes to things like fair use? Is there a leg to stand on? Are there developers that maybe do deserve to get a little bit of a kickback from or royalties from what's being made off of some of these streams? That's a great question. Those are great questions to ask. They're great questions to ask. But I think that at the logical end of this, if you were to follow the licensure path, it just gets really murky. And I think long term it would not have the payout that that is anticipated, or at least it's just shuffling things from one pile to the other and dealing with a whole different set of problems as a result.
No, I would agree. I mean, if we look at and I want to be mindful of the time, but if we look at even, shifting just focus a little bit over to things like the online service of microtransactions, right? And you look at a company like EA, and, I don't want to pick on them, but they are a great example of this, where they're like, the single player is dead. It's all online all the time, live service this, service that. You must pay all of the things for all of the things. I mean, that bit them in the butt. I mean, it did, really did.
But we did see how they learned from that.
Well, and that's my point, right? Like that's what I was getting at, is this idea that, like, you go down this route, which it would be a very similar route of like paywall upon paywall for content. It will come back and kick you. And I mean, the last two single player, even Squadrons with its single player multiplayer component, there's no microtransactions. Fallen Order, I don't think there's any microtransactions in Fallen Order, right?
So nope.
Okay, in saying that? No. I mean, they have sold exceptionally well.
And they've been fantastic games.
Oh, and they have, absolutely. And you look at some of the other incredible, single player titles that have come out in the last couple of years, like Spider-Man or God of War, or any of those. I mean, clearly there are lines of how far you can push any culture when it comes to those things. And when it comes to gaming, we draw some pretty hard lines, and we're a terrible culture because we can turn on you on a dime. But that's a whole other discussion. But any other kind of closing thoughts on this discussion? It was a great discussion, by the way, guys. Thank you. But any other last second thoughts you want to throw out there? You guys good? Sarah, you good?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of all like my life situations, like when I buy a Rock Band song
Mm-hmm.
and I stream that song, I
Mhm.
paid for that song.
Yes.
Like, is that not the licensing fee I'm partially paying? Like, I don't know what I'm paying for then. Like I think of Guitar Hero Live, which is dead now, but it was like you had to pay to stream those songs. Like
Yeah.
there was no buying of the songs,
Mhm.
and that died. So
It's fair.
the Rock Band model of buying the song, paying the licensing fee,
Yeah.
I don't understand where my money's going if that's not where it's going. And if I'm streaming it, it's like, go buy that song. It's a good song. Or go pay your Spotify fee or your Apple Music fee and listen to the song there. Like, it's going to end up in people's hands if they want it or not somehow.
Interesting. Damon, any last thoughts, buddy?
I think I probably shared more than I should.
Oh, that's good, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today in this conversation about life God and video games. It's been great. To those who tune in either on YouTube for video or through Podbean or wherever you get your podcast for the audio of this, thanks so much. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get all of that jazz. We are on the Twitter and the Facebook. I don't know if we're actually on Instagram. I don't, as you can tell, I don't handle our social media, but you can find us in those places, and we will talk to you next time on Roll the Level.